back and they struggle and flail. Flip them over and their movements are more coordinated and purposeful, just like our newborn babies. We know you love your baby. Would you like to learn to love breastfeeding? We can show you how. I'm Dr. Teresa Nesbitt, an OBGYN physician and women's wellness doctor. Nancy Moorbacher, the well-known breastfeeding expert, lactation consultant, and best-selling author, and I teamed up out of friendship and frustration. We knew that the biggest issue for new mothers is that most of them have never seen a newborn actually nursing at the breast. Mothers don't learn from lactation literature. They learn by watching. That's how human brains work. We understand that moms learn best when they are able to see natural breastfeeding in action. That's why we film these videos. Babies should go from in you to on you. Dr. Teresa explains why natural breastfeeding gives you an easier start.
Yeah, the natural breastfeeding that we're teaching you to do is what to do kind of when the baby can't do anything and it's really, really tiny like this. By the time the baby gets this big, which isn't super big, but these babies can look around and root around, they can hold their body up, they can hold their head up, and they can breastfeed in a whole lot of different ways. They're quite efficient about it. So the main questions that we have when we get started is why do we need to even do this at all? And I call it like the training wheels. When you start to ride bicycle, training wheels can give you confidence and protect you from some of the worst bumps and scrapes until you kind of got the idea of it. And that will occur at a little bit different time for different people, but as soon as you kind of got it together, you don't use the training wheels anymore. They might still be on, but you can go on to the other options. So we think of natural breastfeeding for newborns as this time that helps you get past the period where it's easier to not know what you're doing. So we kind of give you this recipe. If you put the baby on you, rather than hold the baby and try and feed the baby, but let the baby eat the way that they're supposed to, the way that nature helps them be able to balance their head, then when the baby helps, it doesn't hurt.
Natural breastfeeding in newborn is easy and effective. It's as simple as 1, 2, 3. Adjust your body, adjust your baby, adjust your breast. Now, watch as Nancy uses a doll to explain to first-time expectant mothers, Essie and Marivelle, the basics of natural breastfeeding.
Newborns need a lot of extra help in the beginning to get on the breast and feed well. And I think sometimes even with a second baby, mothers sometimes forget how much help a newborn needs. And so the natural breastfeeding conditions just make it way easier for the baby. So I'd like to tell you a little bit more about some of the adjustments that you can make when you're using natural breastfeeding, because there's really 3 areas that we talk about adjusting. One of them is adjusting your body. And so, I showed you how you could do it in a chair, but why don't you go ahead and get adjusted here in the couch as if you were going to do a natural breastfeeding position. So just move your hips forward.
What I did is go right to the corner.
That's good, okay. That's good, okay. So part of the adjusting your body is figuring out, what angle you want it, how far back you want to angle. And you'll know when the baby goes on your body if you've got a good angle or not. One of the ways here, let me give you the baby. So for example, if the baby is resting comfortably on your body and is not falling away, then that's a good sign that you've got a good angle that's going to work for natural breastfeeding. So why don't you actually pull your hips forward a little bit more. Let's see if you can get a little bit more. Oh, there you go. So see, that's the other thing. Another part of adjusting your body is figuring out a position where you can relax all your muscles. So like in this case here, you can, now we have an extra pillow over there. Let me have that. I noticed that you're holding your arm up here. So see, that's something you don't want to be doing. So go ahead and lean back. If you're going to be using your arm as a head support for your baby, you want to make sure that you've got something under your elbow so that you can, again, relax that. You don't want tense shoulders, or tense arms. So why don't you try scooting forward just a little bit more and see how that feels. Is that good? Okay, good. Okay, so see, you'll be able to know from your own comfort. So So adjusting your body is the first adjustment. And then the second adjustment is adjusting your baby. And that involves a couple different things. It involves, the baby can actually go to the breast from a lot of different angles. Now you've got your baby kind of straight up and down on your body here. But for example, if you move the baby so the baby's more diagonally, that's another angle. You could even move the baby over so the baby's resting on your other breast, so it's kind of straight across there. And if you've had a cesarean, obviously you would want to avoid having the baby's weight on your incision. You could even, and just to show us for fun, put the baby's feet over your shoulder. You could even have your baby on your body that way. Of course, that probably isn't going to be your first choice.
Yeah.
But any actual angle, because the breast is a circle, you could do any of those. And so some women find one seems to work better for their baby or for them. And some make adjustments even in the middle of the feeding because it just feels more comfortable to do that. So the other part of adjusting your baby is making sure that your baby has foot contact with something. So for example, let's say the baby was on the other breast. One of the other options you have, here, let's bring the baby's body down this way. No, you stay where you are. Yeah.
First is
Here, let me put this in here.
adjust your body, then we're
Right.
going to adjust the baby.
So see, this would be another way. If you had a cesarean, you could have the baby coming off the side like that, but the baby's feet need to be in contact with either you or with something soft nearby, so that we've got the pillow for that. Because when the baby's feet are touching something, then that helps to orient the baby and it helps to trigger the reflexes in the best way. So those are the two parts of adjusting your body and adjusting your baby. And then the third adjustment, which sometimes you don't need to use, is adjust your breast. And you can use breast shaping. You've got the breast models over there. Here we go. So for example, if your baby's sort of bobbing around and having a hard time latching, what you can do is you can squeeze the breast just a little bit to make it easier. You know how when you have a sandwich that's bigger than your mouth, you kind of squeeze it down, so that you can get a better mouthful. That can help with the baby too. If the breast is really rounded, a baby needs you just to squeeze a little bit so that it makes it easier for him to get his mouth around it. So sometimes you might need that, sometimes you might not, but adjusting your breast. So adjust your body, adjust your baby, adjust your breast, and those are the three.
You just kind of make sure that it's all, like you said, like adjusting yourself, like you would just gently put your hand there.
Yeah.
And that would just ease things for the baby.
It could, like just a little gentle squeeze might just make it easier for the baby to get his mouth around it. Because if it's a real, like this breast here is really round, and sometimes babies just kind of struggle to get a mouthful of it. And so if you squeeze it down a little bit, then the baby can get the mouthful just a little bit easier that way. So that would be the third adjustment.
Now let's see natural breastfeeding in action with some real mothers and babies. You may notice that mothers with different body types make slightly different adjustments with how much they scoot their hips forward or how they angle their babies. Whether breasts are small, medium, or large, newborns and new mothers usually find this technique easier and more comfortable. First, Brianna demonstrates the type of natural breastfeeding position that works best for her and her 3-week-old baby boy, Brianna. Watch as she adjusts her body, adjusts her baby, and adjusts her breast.
So Brianna, you have a 3-week-old baby and you've had some practice with natural breastfeeding positions. So we're going to talk about the 3 adjustments that we make with natural breastfeeding: adjust your body, adjust your baby, and adjust your breast. So let's start with adjust your body. So when you are using a position like this, what are some of the positions you like and how do you feel comfortable?
Well, I like to, most of the word, I like to kind of lay back, because it just makes it easier and like less pain or aggravation from my urge trying to hold the baby up. So I do like to be on the pillows.
Okay.
Maybe I put the right up on my neck. I mean, depending on what kind of couch you're on, if it's necessary. And then I'm only right-handed, but when you switch, I just put them on this side. That way, when I do have them coming straight down, if he does kind of want to lay over on the side, it's like put on this
Oh, good, okay. All right, so you find the pillows or cushions or whatever.
I will send you
just for time's sake, I will send you that link. I would definitely recommend finishing it because it does, not so much with this mom, but some of the other moms later, some of the whole thing of sore nipples and everything, and how to work through that. So I'll send you guys the link for that. But that just kind of gives you the idea of how to adjust yourself, your baby, and then your breast. Let's just make sure. Any questions on that? I know it's sometimes kind of hard to explain it. No, all right. So we're gonna just finish out breastfeeding here, and then we're gonna take a break and then come back and talk about postpartum. So we talked a little bit about the whole, the proper latch and holding baby and everything, and I always recommend breastfeeding is not supposed to help. I know you probably heard many horror stories, but if things are hurting, please get help. Don't hesitate. If things you're like, oh, I'll just stick it out because I think it's supposed to be a little bit painful. It is not. So if you're experiencing anything, please ask for help. If you need numbers for lactation consultants, I can give you some in this area. Also, another thing that is kind of common for babies is for tongue tie or lip tie. So whenever a baby's born, if you're having any problem like getting a good latch, ask your care provider just to check if they have a tongue tie or lip tie, because it's something it's pretty easy fix, but if it's there and it's not noticed and you keep trying to nurse and the latch is shallow, you can get very, very sore. So that's always a good question to ask them. So let's talk about jaundice. So that is when baby, like you can see it in skin or sometimes the whites of the eye where it gets yellow. So how to kind of prevent this is to nurse every 2 hours. So for the first couple days, especially until your milk comes in, nursing every 2 hours. That helps to make sure baby does not get jaundice. If baby does get jaundice, his bilirubin is going to go up, and that is going to make the baby sleepy. So that means you're going to have to wake baby to try to get baby to nurse. If you're having problems waking baby up, you can hand express some milk and put some on like your finger, or I can't think of the proper word, finger feed baby some of your milk, and that'll help baby to wake up. That way you can continue nursing him, because if the more the bilirubin goes up, the sleepier the baby's going to get, and then if the levels do get too high, baby will need to be hospitalized. Different things will need to take place. So we always encourage moms to nurse quite frequently, especially in the first couple days. What causes jaundice? See if I can get this spit out in a good way here. So it usually is sometimes just like some bile just kind of building up in their body. So when they're nursing, it kind of helps everything to kind of clean it out.
It's like kidneys, right?
Yes, like sometimes like their kidneys and liver, or, yeah.
Because I remember, like, sun.
Yes.
Do they still recommend doing that for jaundice? And how would that help with the...
Let me get you a more
That's okay.
proper answer
I
on
think
it.
I know what it is actually. It's the
Go for
vitamin
it.
C production.
Really?
When they lay in the sun, that helps
Okay.
with the kidneys.
Because I would say, I can't remember, I don't think I had any major issues. I know Gianna was a little bit that I would have tried to, put her in a sunny spot. But for the other two, I didn't have any.
I know
Issues.
someone that just had a baby,
Okay.
and she was posting on Instagram that she was having to put her in the sun.
Okay.
So I guess they do still
Okay.
recommend
Okay.
that.
Very good. Yeah, because I know sometimes they'll have to like keep track of the levels, and then care goes kind of from there. So it's good.
Okay.
Yeah. So that
So they will tell us.
oh yes, they will definitely, if they see baby has bilirubin at that levels are questionable, they'll do some testing and then give you the adequate. But also within all of that, we encourage moms to keep breastfeeding quite frequently to help
prevent it.
And even if you're like, okay, baby has it, but just kind of keep breastfeeding. So another problem, so we talked about sore nipples, and something you will want to get is like your breast pads in case you're leaking, and nipple cream. There's many options out there, so you kind of get to pick what you feel good. So engorgement, so usually between day 2 and 5 is when your milk is going to come in. So all of a sudden we go from colostrum to milk, and sometimes that causes moms to get engorged where their breasts get hard and they get swollen. So what that happens, then it gets hard for baby to latch on, and rather obviously it's very discomfort, like it's not comfortable for mom at all. So if you do that, we always say take a nice warm shower, let the water run over your breast, kind of massage it, and hand express a little bit, because that sometimes gets the breast soft where baby then can latch on if you express enough that it kind of softens up for baby. Then also another thing they recommend, and some moms say if it's a cold cabbage leaf, just the coolness feels good to their breast. It doesn't technically have to be cold, but the cabbage helps with engorgement. So if you're dealing with that, some cabbage leaves, just tuck them in your bra, and that will help. And we always say for mastitis or anything like that, rest a lot and make sure you are taking adequate liquid. And I always like how the one lactation consultant told me when I had my first one, she was like, drink your regular water intake, but then every time you nurse your baby, think about it like a bottle. If you were giving your baby a bottle, you'd go wash it out and like make sure it's all nice and clean. She's like, think about that. You're taking water to, quote, wash the baby's bottle. So every time you nurse, drink a nice glass, 8 ounces of water. So on top of your daily water intake. Also, so sometimes mom wonder, what should we eat? Eat as if you were pregnant. We talked about the healthy eating habits already. And you want to make sure you have fiber intake, because after you've had your baby, you don't want to get constipated. So just making sure you get a good fiber intake, especially the first couple weeks after baby's born. I think that sums up breastfeeding for tonight. Any questions before we go on break? And the thing I really want to make sure, get help. Like so many moms are like, they suffer for a week or two and then they're like, things just aren't going good. They're like ready to give up. Get help before you get to that point.
So if they have a tongue tie or lip tie, does that mean that they won't breastfeed, or they will, it just will hurt?
They will. A lot of times they'll get like it clipped, and they can actually, I've heard of in Philly, they can do it like a laser. And so they say, like I've had moms that have their babies that are like have the tongue tie or lip tie, and after they got it fixed, like baby nursed amazing. And so it's just kind of like working with it until you can get it fixed, and then baby usually nurses really well. So I always, whenever there's kind of a thing where babies feel like they're not latching on, it's kind of one of the questions. And a lot of times the care providers will check us like soon after they're born to make sure they don't have it.
Our niece, they just found out, she's 18 months now, I think, that she has a lip tie. And they didn't check at the hospital, and she couldn't breastfeed with his sister. And it was like a really painful process for her and stuff. And so she's due a week after me, and she's like, I'm gonna make sure they check now. Because like they didn't check for Lila.
Yeah.
And like that kind of stinks, because they had to, she like needed like the most expensive formula, like all this stuff, and so it was rough for them.
Yeah.
I didn't breastfeed for my oldest. And looking back, her biggest issue was she was fine, but she got confused. Like we put a nook in her mouth before I ever breastfed her. It's just like,
oh,
right? And she got confused. So she, from day one, nursed horrible. She could not latch on properly. And I started supplementing her like right away. So for the other two, I was like, no bottles, no nooks, until they're older to,
Yeah, I
identify
think
those.
someone did say that you're supposed to like they're like just wait until the baby has a good
breastfeeding
Yeah.
routine established. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, and even then, that's another thing, like, I felt like I brought her home from the hospital and she had almost not nursed anything, and I was nervous and scared and stressed, and I was like, oh my word, like, what am I doing wrong? She's not feeding.
Yeah.
So, I did. I think I met with 2 different lactation consultants that helped me
Okay.
eventually.
Yeah. So yeah, and that whole coming home and like feeling like, what am I supposed to do? That's what we're always like, try to get a good latch before, some care provider is like with you,
Yeah.
and always reach out for help. Because it is hard at first. It's hard. You're learning something new.
It's stressful, or it can be stressful.
Yes.
But then the other 2 were very good nurses,
Oh, good.
and yeah.
Awesome. Good. All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and you can turn it off. Take break.